Angelo State track and field alum Daisy Osakue can now call herself an Olympian.
An innocuous Facebook message from ASU coaches interested in her athletic abilities was the catalyst for Daisy Osakue's dramatic journey from her native Italy into the Angelo State and NCAA track and field record books, and ultimately to representing her home country in the Olympics. During her time at Angelo State from 2016 through 2021, Daisy compiled a list of honors, awards, and accolades that places her firmly amongst the top ASU student-athletes of all time. First and foremost, she earned her bachelor's and master's degrees in communication and was named an NCAA Division II All-Academic Athlete. She was also voted ASU's 2021 Homecoming Queen. In the track and field arena, Daisy was a 9-time All-American in the discus, shot put, and high jump, won 3 Lone Star Conference titles in the discus and shot put, and brought home 2 national championships in the discus. She was named the 2019 LSC Female Field Athlete of the Year and was twice named the Regional Field Athlete of the Year by the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association. She still holds the NCAA Division II record in the discus, and she won a gold medal at the 2019 World University Games in Italy. Daisy's athletic success has also transcended the collegiate ranks. She qualified to represent Italy at the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, the 2022 World Championships in Eugene, Oregon, and the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. She reached the finals in both her trips to the Olympics, finishing 8th in Paris, and she also holds the Italian national record in the discus. Olympian, All-American, National Champion, Homecoming Queen, and 2-time alumna. No member of the Ram family can claim all those titles except the incomparable Daisy Osakue.
Hello everyone. What an honor it is for me to be in front of you speaking right now. I truly cannot believe that I'm back home. When Dr. Leos asked me to prepare a speech, I really had no idea of what I could say. But then I just stopped and allowed my memories to guide me. So I'll start by saying, thank you, Angelo State University. My 5 years in San Angelo were fundamentally shaping the person I am today. I received the offer to come to ASU as a student athlete in a moment of my life where confusion and insecurities were slowing me down. I was in my second year of a very demanding law school and was sharing my small free time between a job and track and field. I personally believe that I was very close from leaving the sport to focus more on my studies and helping my family out. Life is funny at times. I'm a huge advocate of divine timing, and I feel like the coincidence and blessings that I've received in my life are a proof of that. January 27, my life changed forever. I left my little Moncalieri in the middle of the night, a beautiful city next to Torino, got on a bus to Milano Malpensa Airport, and cried myself to Texas. I'm not going to deny that my first months in Texanol were filled with curiosity, tears, homesickness, fear, and uncertainty. Slowly, I adapted, started having Chick-fil-A for breakfast, stopped trying to explain to the poor students at Subway that the right word was salame picante and not pepperoni, which actually means bell peppers in Italian, but you know, to each its own. Even started appreciating the beautiful Texan sunsets, the sporadic deer sightings, people wearing pajamas to class, or their obsession over caffeine. Slowly, San Angelo felt more and more like my home, and homesickness left. Athletically, I love seeing how the respect of my teammates grew over time. You need to know that I was a very uncommon thrower, maybe more of a sprinter or multi-eventer at first sight. Still happens now. And yet, my first semester, I broke the school, conference, and Division II record, and the little insecure Daisy started feeling less of an outcast. I always say that my purpose in life is breaking stereotypes and confuse the people that I interact with, and prove that the cover do not represent the entire book. there's always more. I'm sure you look at me and think, oh, Daisy definitely got it all, or of course she was going to be an athlete, but that's not true. I'm the firstborn of two amazing parents that migrated to a totally different country and juggled a paycheck to support 3 children, and never once stopped us to dream big. When I was little, my biggest dream was being part of the Italian military, and guess what? Since December 2018, I'm part of the Italian military, Guardia di Finanza. I wanted to go to the Olympics and fulfill a dream my parents always had in their youth and never accomplished, and guess what? I'm a proud 2-time Olympic finalist. I usually say that I got 1 final for each of my parents so that they can argue. But the biggest dream was not mine. It was Iradia's and Magdalene's, my parents. They hoped that their children could have an education and a better life. And guess what? Not only my unceasing curiosity allowed me to learn and speak 6 languages, I have a degree in criminal justice with a minor in political science and a master in communication. And for that, I need to thank Angelo State University. Thank you for providing me with a home far from home, making my dreams come true, and changing my life.
So, have your questions ready. I think a lot of people that have known Daisy, or maybe some of you who are new to Daisy, might be wondering about her experience. Notice how she just kind of glossed over being at the Olympics twice, because, as one does. So I'll get started, Daisy, and we'll come back to the audience in a second. But you mentioned you were a law student, you were in 2nd year, so 2 of 5 years, correct?
Yes.
And it was very rigorous. But then you decide to change course. You decide that Angelo State, by the way, can you hear okay? Do we need the mic? What's that? Are you okay? Can you hear us in the back?
Yes.
Not so much. So you changed course. You were in your 2nd year of law school, a 5-year program, very rigorous, and you decide to change course. You bet on yourself. You made some very drastic decisions. What was it that was telling you to do that? And what did it take to make the decision?
I really believe in coincidence. Here with me is my coach, Maria Morello. I feel like she was a very big part of my life. My parents call her my elder mother because everything I do in life, I always need her advice. And during that time, in 2016, when I got the offer, I was in my 2nd year of law school. School in Italy is a little different. I had classes every day from Monday to Friday, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And after that, I would go to work, and I used to train maybe like an hour every 2 or 3 days a week. And so I didn't have that much time, and I was slowly starting to think, okay, I need to maybe work so I can be independent and not weigh too much on my parents and study. And so track was becoming something that I wasn't going to do in the future. And then I remember I received the offer and my parents were ecstatic because they've always wanted me to go study abroad, and they knew since I was a little girl that I've always had this curiosity. I mean, I speak a lot of different languages and I always wanted to do big things, but they just didn't have the means to help me to do that. And so they were like, wow, you have a full scholarship for an institution, you should try. But I was still very skeptical. And then I remember going to my coach and be like, so I received this offer, but I'm not really sure. And she was like, what are you still doing here? Pack your bags and go. And guess what? I listened to her, and now years after, I am here talking to you guys about my life, which makes no sense.
Well, I think it makes sense to us because of the trajectory that it took. You mentioned 6 languages. What other languages did you speak?
So I speak Italian, English, French, Spanish, Pidgin, and Odo. The last 2 are actually 2 languages that are spoken from my parents' native country, which is Nigeria, which is an amazing country in West Africa that has more than 270 languages. So, I mean, at least I know 2. And so that's part of like my roots, basically.
Does anybody have a question for Daisy? Yes, go ahead.
When did you start doing discus and shot put?
Again, thanks to Maria Maddalena Amarello. So as you can imagine, I was a sprinter back home. My first national titles in Italy were in the hurdles actually. I was one of the best sprinters that Italy had for like a lot of years. But unfortunately I was growing very fast and my body was trying to get used to my environment. And so I had like different stress microfractures in my feet that were stopping me from, run like I wanted. I had like a lot of injuries. And I remember in 2013, we had like a youth nationals and I qualified for discus, shot put and hurdles. But I used to do everything because I also love the multi-events, and so sometimes I would just go compete with my club and qualify for nationals. And that's the same thing happened here with high jump. Don't ask me how that happened. We do everything for conference. And so my coach, she's the head coach and sport director of my club back home, was like, I think for this time, just like not do ordos and just concentrate on shot put and discus. And I was like, I don't really like none of the two events, but let's do it. At least I still go to nationals. And I remember I got third in the shot put, and the next day I had discus, which I didn't like throw for maybe like 3 or 4 months, and I became national champion. And I was like, oh, I'm not that bad. And so from 2014, I started training full time in discus, and Lord, I was bad. Like it was not, because it wasn't my first love. It was more of something I was doing just because I couldn't do what I wanted. And I remember when I got the offer from Angelo, and I spoke to the coaches, and they were like, I mean, your results is not that great, because I had like a 52 meters, but I saw a video of you throwing, and you were a bad girl, like you can get better. And I was like, is that a compliment? Or like...
Leave it to our coaches to be just direct.
Yes, but they were right. In a month, I got here in Angelo in January, and my personal record was 52. After a month, I threw 54, and ended that semester with 58 meters on the 23 national record in Italy. So, don't ask me how that happened.
Well, I remember the conversation we had when you said when you were in Italy, you could only train 1 hour, maybe 3 hours a week or so. You moved here, you took that opportunity for a scholarship, and you maximized it because then you went to school and you worked out differently. Right, so tell us about your discipline and what that meant to be able to get you to where you needed to be.
So one thing, I just want to throw it out there. I've been advocating a lot about the system that I was able to enjoy while I was here in Angelo. Just know that if your ears are like ringing, it's because I'm talking about Angelo State a lot. I feel like it's the best system to allow a student to fulfill all their hobbies or dreams. While I was in Italy, I was a full-time student basically in law school, and as I told you, it was taking a lot of time of my day. And unfortunately in Italy there's still this idea that if you're a student athlete, you're lazy, and most of the free time you have, you just go to the track and do nothing. And so you're not serious with your education. I've always had like a great love for my brain basically. I've always been curious, and I always wanted to do something that would determine my second part of life. And when I was back in Italy, that was impossible because I really had to study. In Italy, the system is a little different. So you have 3 months of classes, and then you have 3 months of exams. So when you have those exams, you just have one exam for each class, and you have to bring the entire material of the year, which for me, law school were manuals, like 600, 400 pages books that you have to bring to your professor for like 20 minutes interrogation, and he could ask you the little bitty thing that you probably thought that wasn't important. And he can be like, okay, you failed. And I'm like, makes no sense. And so it was very, very demanding and mentally tiring. And so most of the times when I would go to practice, it would be maybe from 8 p.m. to like 9 p.m., just an hour, because I had to go back to study. And slowly it was maybe like 3 times a week, and then it became twice a week, and then once a week. And also, unfortunately, after a while, the professor realized that I was an athlete. Because even though my results weren't great, I was still one of the best throwers in the youth back in Italy. So, you know, articles and stuff like that. And so I remember like the first year, it was very hard on me that I went to exams and the professor was like, oh, you're the athlete. You're always traveling, you don't have to study, you don't study. And in Italy, the grade is between 18 and 30. And they'd be like, or they would like, no, you failed. They'll be like, okay, 19, 20. And I'm like, I know my value is not that low, but it's a very complicated system. And then I come here to Angelo, and hello, Miss Hoover. The professors know my name, the professors care. They understand that I could have competition during the weekend. Joel is there to interact between us students and the professors. That made no sense to me. I was like, wow, like, this is nice. And I was able with Joel to take care of my schedule and have classes in the morning so I could be free for practice in the afternoon. And I was like, what? That can happen? Like, I don't just have to go to class and then figure out how to train during the day. So that helped me so much that it's become my structure now. My practice is always one full long practice, maybe in the morning or the afternoon, and it's what has been working with me. And I think me and coach have influenced a lot of other athletes in Italy because they do follow our way of doing things, mostly the students, because they realize that it's like a more helpful way. And also just to add, usually classes in Italy, you have like 200 or 250 students per class, and fortunately, unfortunately, I was the only black girl. And so for the times sometimes that I, maybe I'll be sick or had competitions or training camps and I wouldn't be in class, the professors would know. It's kind of easy to spot if I'm there or not there. And so that was weighing on me too so much that I felt like I needed to leave sport and just concentrate full time to be a lawyer. And then I came to Angelo and saw the curriculum and saw that, criminal justice was something that I loved and just, spiked my interest. And now it's just something that I'm so grateful I did. And I feel like I'm about to start another master's back in Italy in sociology, which I feel connects a lot of my master's in communication and my bachelor's in criminal justice. So I am grateful that I was able to have a better vision of what's out there and not have the usual, oh, you can be a lawyer or engineer or a doctor or this and that. So I'm very grateful.
For variety.
Yes, exactly.
And know that even though she's traveling, she already worked out this morning. She went to the field, she already ran and do all her things, so she doesn't stop. Other questions? Yes, Isa?
Why did you pursue a master's in communication?
Life is very funny. So
I was hoping you'd say me. That's what I'm waiting
of course, Dr. Leos. Honestly, at the beginning, I was a little skeptical. I knew I wanted to stay because I had another year of eligibility, and I did want to get the opportunity to get a master's and stay. I just wanted to stay in Angelo forever, and I was just finding a way to stay here as more as I could. And of course, the pandemic came, and there was a lot of things happening. And I remember talking to Joel, and I was like, "What could I do?" And I was just going on the website and looking at the curriculum, and I saw communication, and it felt interesting. And I remember talking to my dad because I was, I was coming from a different department, so I was like, "Is it like mass media and communication?" I wasn't very sure. And then I did my first year and we talked about rhetoric. I'm a great lover of philosophy. I remember my first year during our conference championship indoors with the girls group team, we all had to write something, like a quote that resonated with us. And I remember my quote was, "Knowledge comes from experience." It's from a philosopher called John Locke. And the girls were like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Girls, just remember this sentence." Because I feel that's what helped me to go through a lot of things in life. And so I remember going in the rhetoric class and I was just like, I like this. It's making my brain think a lot. And then I learned a lot of things. I learned more things about myself that I never thought I would. something that I take with me a lot and I advocate a lot is the hyphenated identities. And it's something that I really loved when I was studying research. And the fact that when I wrote in my bio, I'm Italo-Nigerian, I am not Italian, I am not Nigerian, I'm those two things. And I'm a student athlete. Like, I feel like I'm part of like such a big and various group that I can't be described with one little word. And so those are all things that I learned in my master's in communication, which, wow. It looks little, but it gives you a lot.
Well, thank you for that plug, Daisy. Other questions? Dr. Wojciechowski?
Hello!
I was one, I do have a question eventually, but I just want to tell a story about Daisy. After she competed in the Olympics, she came back here to do her comprehensive exams for her master's degree.
Yeah.
Which is a big, scary test where you have to sit in a room and answer a bunch of questions you don't know, and then eventually you have to come talk to all of us. I believe both of us were there.
Yes.
And while Daisy was studying for that, we actually had an international student from Italy who was struggling a little bit to find her way. And I just reached out to Daisy. I was like, hey, this student's been mentioning like she doesn't have anyone to talk to in her own language, and I didn't know exactly how that would end, but even though she was in classes and studying for this huge exam, Daisy just stopped by my office to meet with this student and took her to football games and got to know her. So I just wanted to say one more good thing about Daisy that I don't think anyone's really brought up yet.
Thank you, Professor. I didn't pay you to say that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Wojciechowski. Other questions? Yes.
How do you decide what risks are worth taking?
The question is, how do you decide which risks are worth taking?
Like, I don't know. I really believe in the sentence I told you before, which is knowledge comes from experience. I try with my ups and downs to take everything that happens to me and analyze it in a critical way. After a breakout, like a breakdown, of course, like I have to be emotional. But after that, I try to focus on the things and analyze it and try to take all the positive I can from something. And for me, it's always a thing of life. Like, it's life. You need to try things to be able to decide what you like and not like. Just like, vegetables. And I didn't like broccoli, I do like them now. So I feel like, of course, there are bigger things. For me, the thing that kind of helped me to leave my family and my home to come to Angelo was the fact that I just looked at the environment and it looked very nice, very cozy, and I was like, let's see. And as usual, I feel like if you don't like something, you can always go back. So I was like, maybe I could just do it for a semester, and if it doesn't work, I can go back home. And it was 5 years. So you need to try things to be able to judge if something is right or wrong. And I was talking with Coach earlier during my lifting session, and she was just like sitting down and looking around. She was like, we've traveled so much, went to so many different places, went to so many different universities in the US and in the world. But Angelo just has that warmth. It's home. And I was like, yes, it really is. And I feel like in the years when I am able to share with people where I come from and talk about Angelo, everyone was like, where is it? And I was like, in beautiful West Texas. And it's like a D2, yes, a Division 2 school. We were able to destroy a lot of D1 athletes in competitions because we are that. And they were like, okay, relax. Like, you don't have to get upset. And I was like, yes, Angelo State is the best. Go Rams.
Look at that. We should send her as a recruiter.
Oh, of course. I help.
Other questions? Yes.
What was it like competing in the Olympics?
How much time do we have? I feel like the first time was very emotional for me because it was during the pandemic, and what a season 2021 was. I I think in March, I had like an injury here in Angelo, where I was lifting and the day before the competition, and my back just said goodbye to me. And I remember the poor trainers, they were like, whoa, this girl is preparing for the Olympics and she can barely walk. This is a red flag, this is a problem. And I remember that I spent so much time in Shannon Clinic. The entire department, Coach Reed and Coach Dave, and everyone was just like, oh my, like, are you doing okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Like, it was continuous. And I am grateful of the love that I had during that period. They were able to like help me out and kind of live me into a cocoon where I could barely walk, but I was like, yes, I'm going to the Olympics this summer. I only had like 2 months to prepare and qualify at our nationals back home. And I remember going back home and crying to my coach and like, are we gonna make it? Like, is it gonna happen? And I don't know if you're familiar with the system. So there's a ranking system where the way to participate at the Olympics is, or you make the standard, which in those years was 64 meters 50, and I had 61 meters 68, something like that. And, or you have to be between the first 32 in the world. It was hard. And the last day of qualification was the day we had nationals, and from nowhere, I win nationals with a 61 meters mark. And I remember like 2 weeks prior, I could barely throw 40 meters. And I qualified as number 31. Like I was, whoo! 3 points allowed me to go to the Olympics in Tokyo. And I feel like when I got there, I just felt like, girl, the hardest ordeal, you passed it. Now just enjoy yourself. And I know that like the training camps we had there in Tokunozawa, where it was just like with the Italian team, and it was just us eating a lot of pasta and sushi, and just being with the team, listening to music and preparing for the competition. And I just remember that when we moved to Tokyo and I started meeting so many of the athletes that I follow on Instagram, and I was like, oh wow, this is here, and that's here, and that's here, and everyone's like, Daisy, stop, like, you're one of them, that's why you're here. And I was like, okay, that's true, I'm actually one of them. And I remember the day of the competition, I went to my call room and was preparing for the competition, and I got to the stadium, even though it was almost empty because of COVID, and I had chills. I was like, Daisy, you almost stopped doing this. And look at you now, representing your country, representing your university, because I was representing Angelo and studying for comps during the Olympics. And I was like, look at you. And my first throw was horrible, like horrible. I think I threw like 50 meters. But then my second throw, I remember there's this video of me going in and just talking to myself, like, you've done it, you're here, you know how to do this. Just go there and yank it. And I was like, sorry, this is what we used to say during track, dingers. And I threw it, qualified for finals, made the Italian record, and school record in just one throw. And Tokyo was wow. And then I go to Paris, and Paris was very close to home, because Torino is in the north of Italy, and it's close to the Alps. So we are confined with France. We don't like each other, but you know, it is what it is. And so it was very close to home, so I had my family and friends coming to visit me. So it was a totally different experience than Tokyo. And I remember the week prior, as usual, things always happen to me. I had a bad injury that came from my back, and my, let's say, just to cut it short, my right leg was not functioning. I could barely like walk, and like it was just hurting. And again, my coach, I don't know, this woman is strong mentally. I know she was stressed, but she would look at me and just pretend and be like, oh yeah, you're good. And then maybe I'm like, limping? And she's like, yeah, you're great. And we went there again, and I just felt like you have nothing to lose. You're already like a 2-time Olympian. Just go in there and have fun. And but boom, I qualified for finals. And I was like, what is going on? And I had all my friends and family. And one of the things that I always going to remember was my sister surprised me and came over. And I remember she had like this t-shirt with the same picture of me crying from the Tokyo Olympics on. And she comes to me and she was like, go big sis. And this was before the competition started. We were doing our warm-up throws. And I remember I just started crying. And coach was next to me, she was like, yep, we're done. And then I started hearing like my name, like just in different places. And they were my friends. The tickets were very expensive because the hundreds were there that night too. And so just see my friends spending like 300 euros for tickets just to be sitting next to the pigeons up there to come watch me was just like, wow. And I remember after my first bath throw, the first throw is always bad with me. I need to see if my coach's pacemaker works. And so I tried at times. And my second throw, it was just silent. And not because of me, because they were starting with the 100. And I just hear someone yelling my name in Italian, just saying, let's go girl, let's go girl. And I raise my head, and it's one of my very good friends. She's a discus thrower too, Italian champion a lot of times, and sometimes we train together. Well, we're rivals at times, but we're actually very close friends. And she was just yelling, like, you better yank it! And she had like the Italian flag, and I looked at her, smiled, and say, okay. And that's when I threw that throw and made it to finals. And then I had to wait to know if the thing was official. And I just remember all my friends and coach, we just started crying. And my sister just yelled, you're a two-time Olympic finalist, you're a two-time Olympic finalist. My mom and dad calling and just like crying. And I was like, wow. Like, I really did something that my parents have been like dreaming of for so long, but were never able to do. Because, you know, Nigeria is a beautiful country, but there's corruption. And my dad was one of the best judo athletes back in Nigeria. But he was African champion, Commonwealth finalist. He was good. He qualified for Barcelona 92. But, you know, if you don't do certain things that they want, they just took him out and didn't take him there. And so I remember him saying, none of my children will ever compete for Nigeria. And I want to take that leap of faith and build a family somewhere else. And now look at what happened. So life is funny.
Well, life is funny, but you are dedicated. That is for sure.
Absolutely.
One more question. Yes, go ahead.
What advice do you have for student athletes?
Trust your coaches. I feel like one of the things that helped me a lot was trusting the process. And most times, you know, when you're like tired and you're like, why do I have to do this today? Do it. Because you never know what's going to happen. I'd rather do too much than do less. Sometimes my coach calls me Stakhanov. I don't know if you know the term, because I do too much. Stakhanov was a worker like in European history. It was like an overachiever. And she was like, relax. And I'm like, no, I need to do more. I don't know what someone else is doing. And I feel like if you are able to decide to come into a program, you should trust the program, or it makes no sense. Doubts are normal. Me and my coach talk a lot about different things. But if I don't trust her 100%, I'm not going to understand or accept her telling me, okay, it's rainy, let's go to the track, or like, it's cold, let's go outside. So definitely trust the person that's in front of you, because at the end of the day, you're the only two people that have the same goal, which is doing better. So if you don't trust her, you're alone, and it's hard, because the pressure is a lot.
Another question? Yes, Brittany.
Yeah, what piqued your interest in track and field to start? What honed you in on that?
It's funny. So my parents did sports, right? And so, like in the bio, my siblings do two different sports. Like I do summer Olympic sports, my sister does winter Olympic sport. My brother, of course, plays soccer because, you know, it's Italy. When I was growing up, I tried everything and anything. I fell in love with tennis, and I played it for 6 years. But then I was in middle school, and in middle school you have like school championships. And I remember one of the professors in my middle school was like, you are a very athletic girl. You should try and come do track and field. And I was like, no, I play tennis. You act like Serena Williams, Venus Williams as goals. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But then it was like curriculum. I would get like little points in my classes. So I was like, okay, let me do it like an extra thing in the afternoon. And I remember I was doing hurdles and I qualified. So we passed the province, we call it. Like we won the city championship, then we won the regionals, and then I won nationals, but like in the school district. And I was like, okay, track and field is nice. And then I will forever remember, I went to a competition, that was the regional one, and my school won, and they gave us a 5 kilograms Nutella. And I was like, I like track and field. They give me fun. Some of my teammates while I was here in Angelo, they used to call me Nutella Queen, because I used to bring my Nutella from Italy, because it tastes different than the one you guys have. And they're like, are you crazy? And I was like, don't try me. So they knew they never had to touch the one in class, and they can touch the one that is like in the plastic, because it just stays different. And so I guess Nutella was my influence in choosing track and field.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly.
This far, so they should sponsor you.
Yeah, I mean, Nutella is also from my town. It was born in Torino, and so I've been addicted to it since I was in kindergarten. So there's Nutella in my veins, no blood.
Someone else? Dylan?
So I think throughout your story, you've talked a lot about getting close to the edge of quitting, or even whenever you're talking about, your first throw is always the rough throw. And I think that talks a lot about character and courage and confidence and being okay with, making that mistake and still trusting in yourself. I think it speaks to a high level of confidence and trust in yourself. What do you think contributed the most to you developing one, being okay with taking the risks that you've taken, and two, being okay with making a mistake on, if you're in the Olympics, on a huge stage, and still having the courage to come back and try again right afterwards?
I feel like I have this resilient and fire in me thanks to my parents. As I said earlier in my speech, I love them, and I've seen them go through very hard times, and I've seen my parents juggle a paycheck and able to pay all the bills and take care of us, and never told us no to maybe a school trip or like new shoes or things like that. And I've seen my parents go through a lot of stressful moments and still made it out. And so I was like, if my parents can survive and give us a life, even though things weren't like great, and I feel like I can do everything. They went to a totally different country, from Nigeria to Italy. They didn't speak the language, they knew no one, and yet they were able to create roots in there, and now they have kids that represent that country. They're very much part of the community. They're in Torino and in Italy in general. So I feel like everything is possible if you're ready to, give yourself totally and not be scared. I mean, be scared, because you're going to be scared. But being able to know that it's part of your life, and that after very dark moments, there's always, light. So that definitely helps me. And I think that's what pushes me even during competitions with things, or even classes. I had very dark, if you want to call it like that, moments where I was very stressed and had a lot of materials to study, and I wanted to have good grades, of course, but at the same time I had so many other things to do, and I was far from my family, but I just felt like, come on, this is just an obstacle now, go over it, and then you can relax, and then you can focus on the next one. So I feel like it's all part of life, up and down, so you just have to enjoy it.
And be brave to make those decisions. Yes. Daisy, you're the second speaker in this series that we have. It's called Rams Leading the World. And it's a group of people who have graduated from Angelo State University, who have sat in the same seats
who have walked the same hallways, who have had the same professors, and then go on to do great things. What message would you leave with, one, students who are now sitting in those seats, who now have those professors, and two, the staff and faculty? Because I think that staff and faculty, we interact with students when they're here, and we do our best, and you all go on to fly and to do great things. We're lucky to be able to have the series where we can see the results, the fruits. So a message to the students and a message to the staff and faculty.
I honestly think that the best thing you can do is enjoy your moment. Like, you know, the usual sentence, like the Tumblr sentence, seize the moment. For me, my 5 years in Angelo felt long when I was here, was so short now that I think about them. And I can personally say that even though injuries or homesickness and all the negative things you can think, all the things I remember are just the good ones, and I have a ton of good moments. I was able to be part of like a community, a family, and I felt at home here with the professors, with the students, with my department, the athletic department. I just felt like this was my life, and every moment that I was spending was something that would be in my memory, and so I enjoyed it. I'm very grateful to the love and appreciation that I received from my coaches, from my professors, and from the students around me. I remember days in front of Iceland's Bagels, just like talking, or going to you used to have like where you can watch the stars, the Stereotypes nights, the planetarium. I remember going there on Thursday nights just to watch and listen. Sometimes I fell asleep, but it was just beautiful, and just like all the little events on campus, and just I have a lot of t-shirts back home, and I just love, sometimes my sister would bring them out and like, what was this? So this was when at the View Rec we did like a triathlon, or this and that, or this was when we had like tailgate, and I feel like they're beautiful memories that are they shape the person that I am, and I can't wait one day when I have family to be like, kids, I don't care, you can be born anywhere you want, you're gonna study at Angelo State. It's like in the US, I don't care, you're going there, so find a way. So yeah, I honestly am very, very grateful to the opportunity that Angelo gave me. I have an education, and I was able to keep going with my dreams without having to choose one or the other. So I feel like that's something that's very, like, I feel like here in the US you're used to this system, so it doesn't feel very uncommon. But for me, I think it saved my life and made my life better. I survived and I lived through my sport and what I love doing. And so every day I just wake up happy. So thank you.
Daisy, you have so many titles, so many things we can call you, but I think for us, what we love to call you is ours, and we are so proud of you and the things that you have done. So thank you so much for coming back home. This will always be home. Eventually we will welcome your children here in Angelo State.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you to Mary, to your coach. Thank you for coming, for all that you have done with Daisy. I also want to thank another Mary, which is Mary Moreno, who is able to make all these things happen. Contracts, setting up, bookings, all the things. Thank you, Mary, for all the work you do. And thank you all for coming. You have a card. If you don't have a card, you can get one from Mary or one up here. And Daisy will be around for a few minutes, right, to ask questions, pictures, signing. Thank you all for coming. Have a great rest of your day.